What's going on YouTube? This is UK and welcome to episode 2 of How Does Gaming Make You Feel? And before my fellow subscriber introduces himself, I want to start off by saying thanks for the support of the first episode of the series. Considering I had to upload the goddamn video twice, a lot of viewers would have lost their patience. So for that, I want to thank each and every single one of you. So now we can proceed. So yeah, introduce yourself.
What's going on? This is Sith Lord of Gaming, Helevation from the Computer Empire.
Alright, man. So yeah, we're going to get into this. You know, the first topic of today will be this current generation compared to the previous generation. And this is a really good topic, you know, for many reasons. So yeah, Sith Lord Helevation. So what's your views on this generation compared to previous generations?
You know, I kind of got into this generation a little late because, you know, I was having a lot of drama. But, you know, the games that I did play this generation, I thought they were lacking and as far as story and, you know, game length and, you know, just the detail that seemed to be paid to the games even last generation. You know, last generation it seemed like, you know, I spent $40 for a game, and even if the game wasn't all that good, I felt like
you got your money's worth.
Yeah, $40 was cool. But now I'm paying $60 for a game, and the game to be like 9, 10, less than 15 hours.
It would beat that. You could beat games nowadays with just one sitting, like.
Yeah, you know, and I'm like, I want a game that's gonna really, and the games aren't as challenging it seems like anymore. So it's just kind of like.
It's kind of like they basically just they tune down the difficulty levels to attract more of the casual audience, so to speak. Like, I'm not trolling. I'm just saying it seems like that way, or I've just gotten better at games. I don't know. Like, but for me, it seemed like they tuned down a lot of the game's difficulty level just to appeal to. I can't knock them for that because it's a business thing for them, you know. But for us gamers, we want a challenge, and you know. A lot of these games, they're not really challenging on hard when it should really be easy. You know what I mean?
I think that's the problem with developers today is that they lost that kind of balance because, I mean, even last generation, I mean, games were still approachable. I mean, you know, I used to play, you know, Mario Party and Super Smash Brothers and stuff like that on the GameCube. I mean, and you know, those games weren't by any stretch of the imagination easy, but they were easy enough for, you know, people that never played it.
To get a challenge out of it as well.
And then, you know, but they still catered, you know, if you put the game on the ultimate difficulty or whatever, you would want to throw your controller at the TV.
Yeah. Yeah, like there is a learning curve. Well, I don't know, it wasn't much of a learning curve, but you know, the challenge was there, you know. You could feel it, but nowadays you could just throw a game in and complete it within just a run through, like one sitting.
Like a game that I think really demonstrates the example of current gen to previous gen is Resident Evil 5 compared to Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 5 was easy.
That was. I mean, that's an understatement. That was really.
Resident Evil 5 was like, I mean, the boss battles, I'm like, I was scared of Tyrant in Resident Evil 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But like, Resident Evil 5, it's like, you know...
It's because the place how it was set, and they weren't even zombies. They were just people that was infected running around like fucking retards. Like, the game didn't feel like you needed help. You wasn't stranded because every time you killed the monsters or whatever, they'll drop items, which Resident Evil back in the day, it wouldn't have been like that because you would have a limited amount of bullets and it would be more of a challenge, you know. And
yeah, not only that, you know, based on the difficulty in Resident Evil was how many items you had dropped. So if you played, you know, on the hardest difficulty in Resident Evil 1 or Resident Evil 2, you know, you was looking at barely any shotgun bullets. You was looking at, you know,
you were limited
bullets. So, and you know, health was scarce. So you really had to run and dodge and run away from zombies more than you got to shoot them. But nowadays, it's just like, oh, okay, you get infinite ammo.
And as well, Resident Evil 5, it didn't feel dark. It felt like, I don't know, it just didn't feel like Resident Evil at times.
It was too much sunshine in that game for me.
Yeah, it's a bright feel to the game, which Resident Evil is not a bright game. If you look at Nemesis, which is the first Resident Evil that I really got into, and that game scared the shit out of me when I first played that game.
All the Resident Evils up until like Veronica freaked me out when I was a kid. I was just like, man, I can't play this game. I'd
love them to remake Nemesis. Like that would be like really epic. I would love that. But I'm hoping I don't know what route they're gonna go with Resident Evil 6. I'm praying that they bring survival horror back. Like,
and say Capcom has been real funny lately about the games that they develop, because they've been talking about Resident Evil 6 for a long time. And you still haven't seen a trailer for it. Now that they're doing Resident Evil Operation, I think
Raccoon City, and if you see on YouTube as well, a lot of the videos are getting a lot of dislikes. You would see like 800 likes, and you would get like 900 dislikes or 700 dislikes. You can tell.
It looks decent. It looks better than 5, but
it does look dark. I do like the darky feel. Well, the look of it. It looks darker. Definitely looks darker than Resident Evil 5. But I'm just saying that the gameplay doesn't really. I don't know, man.
Well, it's hard to judge gameplay off of a video anyway, because most like they play the game, they get their hands on these demos, these editorial demos. They suck at the games. So it's just like, okay, why are you turning the corner so early? Why are you not aiming for the head, Willis? Come on.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if they was to bring out an official trailer for Resident Evil 6, it will probably be the end of this year. Sometime November.
Let's hope Capcom gets it together.
Yeah. What was I going to mention? All right. Is there anything else should we touch on this topic?
I just want to say that last generation,
Oh yeah, last gen.
A lot better than this generation as far as and gameplay goes. Because people always want to talk about the graphics don't matter. It's about the gameplay. Well, I'm like, graphics nor gameplay has been up to standard this generation as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, last generation I did feel like I had my hands full with the games when you bought them, and that you did feel like you spent your money and it was well worth it. You buy them now and you complete them and you're like, what the fuck, is that it? Like, is that all I'm gonna be playing? That so then you're forced to basically trade the game in. Like, So all right, so should we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, so basically next topic is basically developers nerfing games and just to expand their audience, and basically just taking certain features out of games So what's your views on developers nowadays on games?
I understand nerfing from a business standpoint, because you do want to tap into that, because take for example the Wii. The Wii has sold 80 million units, but yet still most of their games are lucky to break 1 million or 2. So you want to tap into that casual audience to a certain extent, but I think it's all about balance. You want to balance your hardcore audience, with your casual audience and each other.
Yeah, and the balance for most games this gen hasn't really been there for a lot of them. Look at Uncharted 2 when it first came out. The multiplayer was brilliant. Like, it hardly had any flaws to the game, and 3 to 4 months later they patched it and they completely destroyed the game, like single-handedly. They took down the health. It would take literally less than a quarter of a click to take someone down, and that's a great example of basically developers just catering to a wider audience. And And I agree. I don't. But when you're doing it, when you're basically destroying the title, I think that's wrong. If you want to do it to like a bigger market, as in like products, then yeah, I don't mind. That's not going to affect my gameplay, sort of, my experience.
The developer's problem is like, you know, they get all these smart people in a room, and you know, they strategize and think, okay, well, you know, how could we bring in more casuals, rather than trying. I think the best way to please the two is to separate the two. Like, if you're going to make a game for, you know, your hardcore audience, make a game for the hardcore audience, and don't worry so much about the casuals, because your hardcore audience is going to bring in, you know, their casual friends anyway. By
exactly, because they're going to, it's word of mouth. Look at Demon Souls. That's a great example.
You know, and you know, Uncharted 3 is the same thing. I mean, I've told, you know, several people about the beta. You know, now whether they've gotten on it or not, you know, it's cheap to go buy a $3 Subway cup. You know, that's on them. But you know, I at least told them about it.
I'm pretty sure that shit has sold like hotcakes anyway. But
yeah, and then you know, so you know, us hardcore gamers, they act like us hardcore gamers don't sell games. I think the problem with us hardcore gamers is that
we know our shit. We're knowledgeable enough to know what's basically what they've added.
We're knowledgeable, but at the same time, we don't complain as much as casuals. Like casuals, they'll go on forums and, you know, they'll talk about, you know,
and it's basically, it's not even because it's their frustration, because they suck at the game. They can't adjust, you know.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, that's why, you know, you're starting to see a downgrade in the quality of the games, and especially with, you know, the difficulty. I'm like, you know, this is hard. I mean, really? I mean, you know, this is supposed to be multiplayer. I mean, you know, and I think Call of Duty kind of had a lot to do with that, because
you know, I was going to mention that. But yeah, you know, Call of Duty, there's so many titles that I've lost count. How many? 6, 7?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of damn.
They're bringing out the same game every single year. Like, yeah, they might add a new kill streak here and there. I mean, wow, Chopper Gunner or whatever the hell it's called. But they don't add any new. They haven't added this. They haven't made a new engine for that game in I don't know how long. And I don't think they're adding a new engine into the Modern Warfare 3. Like,
I mean, but you know, at the same time, it's like, why should they? I mean, if the game is
exactly, if it's not broke, don't fix it. that's their motto.
Copies, you know, then why am I gonna, you know, alter this game? I mean, you know, and they have, you know, Call of Duty has tried to make more of an effort to please the hardcore, you know, first person shooter heads, but
yeah,
it's still like, you know, casual friendly.
Yeah, it is. And for me, to this day, still Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, that's still for me, that's the best Call of Duty, because it was, for me, it was balanced, and I think it is the most balanced Call of Duty out there, out of the lot. But they've taken out a few perks on Modern Warfare 3. I think it was Martyrdom they took out, and Last Stand, and Commando Pro. So they're trying. I'm respecting on how they're trying to balance the game more out now. They've taken out a few of those annoying perks. Yeah. So it remains to be seen. But for me, I think Battlefield 3 is gonna wipe the floor of it. I don't know about sales terms. I think Call of Duty is gonna destroy it, but gameplay wise, I think Battlefield 3 hands down is gonna. It's just
Battlefield 3 is
it's got a longer lifespan because there's a lot more unlockables. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard. There's like years of unlockables apparently on Battlefield 3. I don't know if that's the correct information I read, but there's like it's basically it's gonna take you a while to unlock everything, like, from what I've heard.
Yeah, I mean, Battlefield 3 has never really been my like first person shooter of choice.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I wouldn't say cup of tea because I do like slower shooters. It's just I don't know. Just all the sheer amount of people that can play in one lobby at the same time was always a turnoff to me. I'm like, I'm so used to playing like a maximum of 12 to 16.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that as well. But a game like Battlefield, you got to have a party. If you jump on there by yourself, I'm gonna admit it, and I'll probably be the first one to admit it. It is boring as fuck. Like it may be fun for a few games, but if you're playing by yourself, it's not as fun as if you're in a party or that's me anyway. It's a lot more fun because it's more strategic that way. When you're by yourself, you don't tend to play strategic ways. You just tend to just run out there and just because no one's got your back. If you're with a party, it's better that way.
Yeah, and plus
Call of Duty, I understand why it appeals to a lot of people because you can basically pick up the pad and just run around and destroy people single-handedly. And I have to admit, it's fun. It's fun. But for me, Call of Duty doesn't have a long enough lifespan because I tend to lose interest after a couple of months, if that, maybe a month or a month and a half. But Battlefield is all round for me a seasonal game that I'll be playing.
And Battlefield is definitely one of those games that's kind of like you could take breaks from and then like it's easy to kind of get back into it after you've been away from it for a while. So I do, Battlefield 3 is definitely a game that I'm interested in playing and getting good at, but it's also one of those games it's not for everybody,
Yeah, exactly.
Which I like.
And there's a slight learning curve. As well, unlike Call of Duty, anyone can play that game.
Can't run and gun in Battlefield. You get shot.
You get clampered down. But
so you want to continue on developer?
Yeah. If we ain't touched on anything, do you want to?
The one thing I will say before we move on is that with back to Uncharted 2 and their multiplayer, I think developers need to, not nerf games in order that are successful from the jump in order to be casuals. I think if the game is already geared toward casuals, then nerf and
exactly.
If the game is working, why fix what's working? You know what I mean?
Because obviously they're advertising the shit out of the game right now, and everyone's gonna know. They're gonna know what's it called. It's basically known for a campaign, and that's all the advertisement they're showing right now. So why do they want to nerf it multiplayer wise when they're advertising it as a campaign sort of thing? But obviously now they're really focusing on the multiplayer side of things. So I'm just hoping that because a lot of people are bitching on this forum saying tune down the auto aim, hip firing and for its sake, if they do not do that, they're going to lose a lot of user base on that multiplayer side of things. So.
One more thing, just take off auto aim on blind fire,
or at least take off auto aim,
and you'll fix all the problems. All the biggest problems that everybody has with hip firing. Just disable auto aim, and you will render blind fire useless. That's all I gotta say about that.
All right, so let's move on. Last topic. And we'll make this quick. Game of the Year talk, GOTY. So, how are we starting this off? Elevation, what are we saying about GOTY?
Game of the Year, it seems like everybody and their mama is talking about Uncharted 3, Batman Arkham City, and Skyrim.
Yeah.
And Skyrim to me looks boring. I'm sorry. I was just like, it has... it's one of those games where you run around, like all the Oblivion games is all about running around and going from town to town, and the travel feature in that game has always been a turnoff to me in Skyrim. So Skyrim definitely, I don't know. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people with. But
by the talks of it, it's a 3-horse race between those 3 games. But a lot of games are going under the radar.
I definitely think Deus Ex is getting severely looked over.
Deus Ex is definitely. I think Deus Ex is going to be one of the nominees. From what I heard, the story was really good. What do you think about LA Noire? I don't. LA Noire for me was good. Like, I got really addicted at the start of it. Then halfway between the game, I got really turned off. Like, I stopped playing it for a few days, which is probably one of the reasons why. But for me, it just got boring. Like, between the so I don't. It was good. I loved the facials and the animations were wow, like one of the best you could.
I think the problem with LA Noire is everybody expected it to be another Grand Theft Auto type game.
I knew that from the get-go that it was going to be, completely different. Like, but just a lot of the casual fans, like we said back in the other topic, casual audience, they don't understand this.
But LA Noire, the problem with that is it's a detective game, and if you never play Carmen Sandiego or
it requires patience, you got
detective game, yeah. You're not gonna be able to get into it. But I definitely think that a game of the year that is severely being overlooked is Star Wars: Old Republic. I don't understand why nobody is giving that game any credence. Maybe it's because it's an MMO, and
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's highly unlikely an MMO. I'm not being biased or anything. That it would, as good as the game it is, I think you have to have a single player game, single player.
Yeah, and that was the mistake I think that BioWare made with developing that game, is because, if you played any of the previous Knights of the Old Republic games, the single player was an emphasis, but you could also see that, the game was eventually going to lean toward having a multiplayer in it, but I think to take out the single player altogether and just making an exclusive MMO was a mistake, but I definitely think
it's good news for the MMO world universe. I'm really excited. I'm definitely 100% going to be getting that. So yeah, I want to be the first subscription to get it because I love Star Wars, and it's good news. So.
People keep talking about the graphics in it, and I'm like, oh no, what multiplayer game besides the only multiplayer game I've seen that's had really great graphics, and it's not even out in America yet, is Blade and Soul.
Yeah.
And but graphics in multiplayer games is hard to do because of the sheer amount of people and
exactly the amount of and the servers you gotta put it that perspective as well and all that shit.
Yeah.
So,
but as far as the top 3 games for Game of the Year, I think Uncharted 3 is gonna take it just because of the multiplayer feature. I think really is what separates Batman Arkham City and Uncharted 3.
Yeah, for me that's my game of the year. The only other 2 games that I think is going to be contention for it is obviously definitely 100% Batman Arkham City. That's right. It's a tail race between the 2, and possibly Skyrim. And like I said, Deus Ex is running under that radar. It's probably a few seconds behind those 2. We're going to see. It's exciting to find out. But yeah, guys, I think we've touched on everything. So. Elevation, where can they catch you?
You guys can check me out at The Computer Empire. YouTube.com/The Computer Empire. It's all one word, and holla at your boy. Check me out.
His details will be in the description and in the annotations of the video. Please check out his videos. He's got a good opinion on the electronics and gaming industry. And this is your boy UK, and we're out. Peace out.
Peace.